Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Red Donkey Projections. My name is Lucas and I have Eric here as always.
Hey guys.
We are currently possibly one day away from knowing who Joe Biden's vice presidential nominee is. He's either going to probably announce it today or tomorrow. So today we'll be taking a look at Joe Biden's potential vice presidents, how they impact the electoral map, their pros, their cons, and of course, their baggage. And with that being said, let's get right into it. Before this episode starts, I did promise to give someone a shout out and to promote their mock government. I'll leave a link to the mock government in the description. It's a very good mock government. The name of it is Election Central Mock Government. If you want to join, I'll leave a Discord link in the description. And now, right back to the episode. Let's start with our first candidate here. The big name, the top contender. Number one on every single list, Kamala Harris. She obviously is very well known. She is currently a senator serving along with Dianne Feinstein from the state of California. Relatively new. She was inaugurated in 2017, as it says here. She actually ran for president in 2020. At her peak, she was polling second behind Joe Biden. She's very well known for attacking Joe Biden, in that debate for his policies. So she would definitely be a pretty interesting pick. She is a person of color. She's half African-American. Actually, not African-American. She's half black and half Indian. And she also was the former attorney general of the state of California. We are going to keep this a little bit more brief than kind of the other videos because we do want to keep this a little bit short because we're going through all, or at least we chose 10 of, I believe, of the most important ones. So we'll just quickly run through, pros, cons, background. So, pros, very well known. Ran for president. A lot of people do know who she is. Another pro is that she is a person of color, which there's a lot of pressure from everyone basically to pick a person of color. Now let's dig into the cons. Her record as attorney general, according to a lot of people, is problematic. If you can watch our own Kamala Harris video we made, we did an in-depth video on Kamala Harris as vice president. We dug into her baggage there a lot. But this would be pretty interesting. She is considered to be more of a moderate candidate, a little bit to the left of Biden, but overall still relatively moderate. One con, however, is that she is from the state of California, which is a deep blue state. So Joe Biden doesn't need any help winning here. Let's take a look at the electoral map now. We have this color here in blue that says helps. And essentially, if Joe Biden were to choose this, each candidate, we would see how they could potentially help or hurt the map. Let's start with Kamala Harris. So California probably would help their home state advantage. This is essentially your regional advantages here. Arizona, very close to California, could see increased turnout here. This would be very beneficial because Joe Biden really does need Arizona to win this election. Also, potentially Nevada. We think this will go to Joe Biden at the end of the day, but it's still good to probably reinforce that because polling does tend to sway to the right here. So although the polling average might be a little bit narrower than what they actually are, it's good that Joe Biden should choose a candidate that can reinforce his lead in Nevada. And also, I won't mark them out completely, but we could see also potentially higher turnouts from the African Americans due to that connection they have with that vice presidential pick. So we could see a state like Georgia, a higher African American turnout, North Carolina too, because these two states do have a very large African American electorate.
Also, Kamala Harris is a fairly good speaker, and comparing to Joe Biden, she can definitely do or definitely close off the campaigns that Biden needs to do. So, for example, in the Blue Wall area, I'm sure she could speak well, and in Texas, she can possibly, be the empowering voice of the Democratic Party. So maybe just her speaking skills overall can fill the gap that Biden doesn't have.
Right, and that would help probably during the debates as well. All right, Now we're going to head to the second candidate in this article. We'll leave a link to the article in the description. Elizabeth Warren. Eric will tackle this one.
Yep. So Elizabeth Warren, along with Kamala Harris, ran for president, and she stayed in the race fairly long. She dropped out, I think, right before Bernie Sanders. She is a progressive Democrat. She isn't a moderate. She is a progressive, so her policies are pretty democratic. And she is a senator from California, a deep blue state.
I think you mean Massachusetts.
Did I say California?
Yeah.
Whoops. I'm in Massachusetts, and that is a pretty safe state, one of the safest states in the Northeast, and that right there is already a pretty safe Democratic area. She actually doesn't have a lot of baggage, or at least no baggage from her has really surfaced that we can talk about or know of. But the thing is that she isn't a person of color, which is what people really want right now. Additionally, she's, as young as she may look, she is 70. And, Biden may not run for a second term, so likely the vice president will or possibly take the spot to run. And also, although Democrats think a progressive and a moderate can unify the Democratic Party, their views, I feel, just won't align, which is why Elizabeth is really at the top of the list. Let's see what she can possibly help.
Right. I want to also add another point on that, in that a lot of those, hardcore Bernie supporters, they don't really like Elizabeth Warren because she stayed in after the race in the Democratic primary and potentially could have split the vote, the progressive vote, between her and Bernie Sanders. Now, I don't think there's any data to fully support that, but it's their interpretation of it, so that might not be good for Elizabeth Warren as well. All right.
And the thing is, that along with Kamala Harris, she's stationed right in the middle of the Northeast. She's from a safe state of California. She may not help tremendously, maybe possibly Maine 2nd district, but she's quite close to the blue wall. But once again, nothing, the distance is still pretty far compared to all the battles.
Right.
Maybe New Hampshire too.
Yeah, maybe New Hampshire, but New Hampshire should be a pretty solid, grasp for Joe Biden right now. I think he has a pretty good hold on that. So not too much regional advantage for Elizabeth Warren here. Although I do think that overall, although there might not be a regional or geographical advantage, she might be able to get a lot of more of those younger voters out, because she does tend to perform well with the younger voters. Like Joe Biden performs well with the older voters. Maybe Warren can do better with the younger voters and kind of, in general, help Joe Biden there. All right. Let's head now to Tammy Duckworth. This is also a very interesting pick. I was actually thinking about this one. Let's give some background first. She is a senator from Illinois, was elected in 2016, served in the House, was also a war veteran from, I think she served in Iraq, I believe. She is a double amputee, and I think she overall would be a very interesting candidate. She is a person of color. She is Asian American. I believe she's Thai and Chinese. I think that's the case. I think she is a relatively good pick. There's really not much baggage on her. I don't think there's any to my knowledge either. So definitely better than a lot of the other candidates here, because a lot of them here have a lot of baggage.
Duckworth is also a moderate. So unlike Elizabeth Warren, her views with Joe Biden would align, which is something important.
Yeah, she is. She's definitely more moderate than the candidate like Elizabeth Warren is. Now, name recognition could be possibly an issue, although vice presidential candidates in the past haven't really. Some of them haven't been really. Also, didn't have that much name recognition, so maybe it might not really matter at the end of the day. So that would be definitely interesting to see. Now, I think the one con about her that I can come up with is that she is from a deep blue state, just like Warren and Harris. She's from the deep blue state of Illinois, which Joe Biden does not need any help picking up because of, the Chicago area there really makes it super blue. So potential regional advantages is that she is from the Midwest. Oh, what am I saying today? But that could potentially help states in the Midwest, like the Blue Wall area. like, Wisconsin, the Rust Belt, yeah, Wisconsin, Michigan. It could potentially be helpful there. So maybe there is a slight regional advantage. She could also bring up more of those Asian American voters as well, because people do tend to have that connection there. Alrighty, let's head now to Susan Rice. Eric, you will take this one.
Yep. So Susan Rice was the former National Security Advisor and ambassador under President Barack Obama. She's, right. I feel like she is second place right behind Kamala Harris in terms of the probability of becoming the vice president. She is, I feel like, pretty moderate. Pros, she's not that old. She's also 55, along with Kamala Harris, which is a pretty young age compared to Joe Biden. And the baggage, though, might bring her down a little. She did have one comment regarding, how Benghazi was handled and who was to blame. And at the debates, she is a very good speaker. She has to be, very diplomatic. She dealt with foreign policy and relations. So, in terms of speaking, she would probably fare well. But, on that debate stage, Republicans could very significantly grill her on her Benghazi attacks Benghazi comments. Let's see the reason.
Interesting. Yeah, debatably, though, I do think that I feel like she does have a bit less baggage than Harris does, for sure. Possible. Yeah. I think, in my opinion, I think it is less, but she is closely tied to the Obama White House, so I don't know, genuinely.
My opinion is that if she doesn't become the vice president, she will definitely be put somewhere pretty high in Joe Biden's cabinet.
Interesting. Yeah, that's definitely possible. And it says here another con is that she hasn't held elected office before. She's, kind of been appointed for most of her jobs. So this would be very interesting to see play out. All right, let's look at the map now. All right. So, let's see. Eric, do you want me to discuss this one or what?
Yeah, sure. We can both tackle it.
All right, sure. You can start with the beginning. FYI, she is from DC.
Mm-hmm. So Susan Rice is from DC. Once again, a pretty safe that doesn't need help, to be carried. I'm not sure exactly what regional advantages that she gives, which is probably another pretty not huge con, but it's definitely something that would help. Regional advantages, could bring out more turnout if they can appeal more to the people in that state if you live closely to them.
Right.
I'm not exactly sure if she does provide any regional advantages. She'll probably have to, use her diplomacy and her eloquence to kind of resonate and appeal to the Democrats in the United States.
Right. Potentially maybe help in like Virginia, but really don't need really any help there. We could see, like with Kamala Harris, higher increased turnout from African Americans. That would benefit states like, North Carolina and Georgia. All right, let's now head to the next candidate here, Karen Bass. Okay, very interesting pick. She is a representative from California since 2011. She is the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, as it says here, and she was the former Speaker of the California State Assembly. So that is a pretty good amount of experience. Although, is it enough experience for vice president? In my opinion, no. She's a representative. Some representatives could go from representative to vice president, but I personally don't think it's enough experience. What potential issues could we see here? The first biggest issue is probably name recognition. Basically, not really that many people know her. I personally didn't know her until, she kind of got into the headlines for being a potential VP candidate. And I think she also does have some baggage as well. I believe she praised Fidel Castro and also went to some Scientology church event or something like that. But I don't think, that's exactly going to show that well on her.
There was a new article that was actually released today or yesterday, and it was a pretty long article which listed also a few cons of Karen Bass. So I'm not sure that she was really popular at the moment, and along with that, she's not that much, she's not being mentioned that much in the news anymore, which is also bringing her probability and popularity down.
Also, something to add about Karen Bass, she is a progressive. She's more progressive than a lot. And I've been seeing like DNC does want, a lot of the members of the DNC or Democrats in general do want Karen Bass to be chosen as the vice presidential candidate. She is a person of color. She's African American. And I mean, that would be, I think, because a lot of people are, again, pressuring Joe Biden to choose a person of color. So looking at the map now, just like every single candidate we went through so far, she's from a deep blue state of California. What can she help with? Basically, almost the same thing as Kamala Harris, helping with these two bordering states. Other bordering states can help as well, and also like states with a pretty large African American population. We could see higher turnout there from that electorate due to that connection they're having with them. All right, well that's Karen Bass. We'll do at the end of the video like kind of a recap, so we can just talk about who we think is the best pick or like who's the most likely and that kind of stuff there. Mm-hmm. Eric, we'll now head into Val Demings.
Yep. So Val Demings is also another woman of color, and she is currently a representative in Florida. Before this, she used to be the police chief, and that's probably where most of her cons are going to come from. The pros, this is the first candidate on our list from a battleground state of Florida. Maybe if she is chosen as the vice president, which I gotta admit isn't that likely anymore, she could swing Florida more to the left than it already is right now. Once again, pros, dealt with police situations, and that could be applied to what she has to do as vice president. Also, she is a woman of color, which people are looking out for. But I gotta say, there are more cons than pros, because right now, being a police chief and being vetted for vice president isn't really appreciated by African Americans themselves and Democrats. I feel like the chair, I think the chair of the Black Lives Matter movement really did not want her to vice president. And also, she's a representative, which doesn't give much experience, and name recognition isn't that significant. And her baggage from being a police chief is very, very extreme.
Right. I also want to add another point here in that, as you said, she's really not that well known. She's also not that well known in the state of Florida. So maybe she could give a small potential benefit, but really I don't think that much. And also another interesting fact that I was reading, while she was in Congress, she actually co-sponsored a bill. I forgot the name of the bill, but it was considered to be a major part of the Blue Lives Matter movement. So this might not really look good on her as vice president, especially during the times we're in right now. All right, Eric, you can now discuss the regional advantages, potential regional advantages here.
Yep. So as I said before, Val Demings is from Florida, a swing state that is really highly contested, or was. Now we do think that Joe Biden will win this in a lean. Maybe if Val Demings becomes the vice president, it will go to a lean likely area. Right bordering Florida to the north is Georgia. Maybe potentially there, Val Demings could help out and increase Democratic turnout, specifically African-American turnout. Once again, though, her cons of being a police chief maybe doesn't appeal to the Democrats as much. So maybe it can potentially hurt the margins here, but we're not really sure. But those
very possible.
Yeah, potentially Texas, but I'm not really sure about Texas.
Yeah, I don't think Texas. A little bit too far from Florida. All right. Let's head now to Keisha Lance Bottoms. Just to like kind of give you guys a preview, I think we are going to skip Gretchen Whitmer. We did see that she is apparently being considered because there was a conversation with her in the Biden campaign. We're going to skip over her. We're also going to skip over Baldwin, but we will do Michelle Lujan Grisham after we do Bottoms. So I'll go with Bottoms here. Mayor of Atlanta has been in the news recently regarding the Black Lives Matter protests. She's a person of color. She's an African American. She has actually moved up in CNN's power rankings from like very low to like now she's the number 2, I believe. But I think the two biggest issues, experience. Now experience is what kind of counted Stacey Abrams out. Does mayor have more executive experience than state legislature? Of course, but it's still really not much experience. Usually, the vice presidential nominees are either a governor or a senator. And I don't think that mayor is enough experience for that to happen. The second issue is name recognition. I mean, she has been in the news recently, but she's really not well known countrywide. I personally didn't even know who she was until like a couple months ago when she started going into the news. So let's actually take a look at potential helping and hurting here. And in my opinion, just like Demings, she could help in like Georgia, Florida. Potentially that would be very helpful for the Biden campaign. Now, Keisha Lance Bottoms, I don't recall her having any baggage, or at least any major baggage. So I'm not sure. I think Georgia, she could potentially help in, because Georgia does look to be not, I don't want to say completely competitive, but it is relatively competitive now. Considering how polling's looking and how Georgia has shifted a lot to the left. So this could be a potential win for Joe Biden if he does choose Keisha Lance Bottoms. And Florida could be another one. But again, name recognition might be a huge issue when trying to tackle these states and trying to win them. So that is Bottoms. And our final candidate, before we do our recap, will be Michelle Lujan Grisham. Eric, why don't you take this one?
Yep. So the thing with Michelle Lujan Grisham is that not a lot of people know her, along with Val Demings and Keisha Lance Bottoms. Let's get into her background. She's been a governor since 2019. She is a moderate Democrat in New Mexico, a fairly safe state. We do think that there's not too much baggage about her. Maybe there was one incident where she walked into a jewelry store and during the COVID-19 crisis, but other than that, her baggage is really not that significant for her. Also, she is a fairly young woman, once again, compared to Joe Biden. Yeah, and also she served as governor, which does give quite a bit of experience on Lucas's tier list of, executive holdings.
Yeah, she is the current governor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's see what regional advantages she provides, which is actually quite a bit. So as we see, New Mexico is right next to Arizona and Texas, and she can definitely help out in this area. Arizona is also being highly contested right now and could help Joe Biden, increase turnout over there. Texas is a big one. Although we say Joe Biden shouldn't focus very heavily in Texas, Michelle Lujan Grisham could appeal to the people here and speak, since New Mexico does border Texas.
Right.
Colorado,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's a contested state, but at the moment we do think it's going to Joe Biden. Pretty soon.
So yeah, and I think that being a Latina could probably help a lot here, considering that Arizona does have a lot of Latinas and Latinos, and Texas does have a lot of Latinx people as well. Increased turnout would probably benefit Joe Biden a lot. Again, the biggest issue with Grisham is name recognition. She's just not that well known, so people just might not, vote for that. So let's head back to the beginning now, and let's discuss, likelihood and kind of ranking them, who we think is, going to be chosen. So let's start overall by saying that vice presidential picks are a bit important, but obviously people are voting for who the president is, not exactly who the vice president is.
Maybe
with that,
this election, it could be a bit more important because this could be
right.
the first time that there is a woman as vice president. And, as we say, Joe Biden might not run for a second term. So this could be the gateway for one of these women to run in 2024.
Right. That's why this pick is more crucial than past years. Mm-hmm. Who do you think is the most likely? Kamala Harris by far.
Yeah.
Very likely. Yeah.
The markets show it as well.
Yeah. I'm about 70% sure it will be Kamala Harris. Very high up there in the rankings. Mm-hmm. Who's the second most likely? Susan Rice. Person of color, as we discussed, has good pros, but yeah, some cons as well. Now, third, I think Eric and I might have different opinions. Just personally, my number 3 is Tammy Duckworth. I think that she does help a lot, and potential I don't want to say help a lot, but she doesn't seem to have that much baggage compared to some of the other candidates. Eric, what are your thoughts on your number 3?
Yeah, Tammy Duckworth is definitely more well known than Michelle Lujan Grisham, and governor and senator, those are pretty high, executive roles in government. So although Michelle Lujan Grisham is a governor, she's just not well known, and even the markets show her that she's at 1 cent. In perspective, Kamala Harris is like 55 cents. So the margin is pretty big, and the likelihood is pretty low, although she would make a pretty good vice president just based on her bio and her regional advantages. But yes, I would have to put Tammy Duckworth in just because of her recognition.
All right, well, those are our predictions. We hope to find out today. If not, we'll find out tomorrow who he picks. But we're very excited for it because we really want to know. So that's the end of the video for today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this episode, please hit the like button. And if you like our content, please hit subscribe. We'll see you in our next episode tomorrow.
See ya.